I have the pleasure of introducing you guys to Shannon O'Brien. Shannon is a renowned life coach, and today she's going to be educating us on a few things that we need to know about career and life changes. So, Shannon, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, Emmanuel, thanks so much for having me here. I always love the opportunity to share my experience and offer any insights and hopefully share or spare people some time and snafus. I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years, but entrepreneurial for 25 years.
Okay.
So excited to dive into this conversation with you today.
So we're just gonna go basically now. Life coaching is something I'm very, very much intrigued by because I think 90% of success can be attributed to mindset. Right?
Mhm.
Now, I'm very curious as to, you founded Wholeu back in 2012, right? I'm
Mhm.
very curious as to what got you on this journey that you said, hey, you know what? I am actually going to be a life coach.
Yes, and I have to be honest that I still don't call myself a life coach, but
Okay.
I think that is the category of which I sort of fit under. And I was on a journey, on a journey to find what career really fit with me.
Okay.
And I think being an entrepreneur and being a life coach or a career and life strategy advisor, as I call it, more words, but it gives me license, it gives me the opportunity to focus on a lot of things. And my career started really graduating undergrad and being very influenced by 9/11 and the impact
How so?
that the aftermath had, because I was graduating right around September 11th.
Okay.
And so my focus, even though I was studying communication at the time, I was more focused on intercultural communication. And so on international development and intercultural relations, and went to Japan, got a
Okay.
master's there, came back, started to work at Harvard promoting diversity. And then I could go on and on about my career, but my as I was working in higher education, so first at Harvard and then at MIT promoting invention and innovation, for a total of 7 years,
Okay.
found that my favorite job was working with people, with individuals. In that case, it was undergraduates and graduates, but helping them to start companies and plan events and network. And I just felt like that's what I wanted to do. So the category of life coach or career coach
Okay.
fits that possibility of helping people navigate their lives and figure out what they want to do and find their purpose.
So how did you, okay, so I'm very curious about Harvard because Harvard is obviously it's a very prestigious university, right? So for me, I've had the privilege of interacting with a few people that graduated from Harvard and similar schools, but I always find myself a little out of place because, you're talking to like really, really smart people. Getting to Harvard is not something easy. It's just getting in alone is bragging rights, right? So, I mean, did you go to MIT? Because I remember you had mentioned something about MIT at some point. Where you
I worked at MIT. Yeah, I worked there as a volunteer originally, and then as an administrator running a student prize for
okay.
innovators and inventors. And their level of smartness is on a total other level. It's really incredible.
Okay, okay. So now I'm which is now coming from a perspective of, you come in with you're promoting diversity and you're coming from a very what do I call it? A different perspective as far as approach to life, right? So how did you blend in per se in your experience with in Harvard and in MIT? Because for me, this is also something I kind of struggle with is to okay, you're dealing with high accolades here, like what is that mental state that you put yourself in? Because and I'm gonna just the reason why I'm asking the question is there's a lot of viewers that are either they have this mindset of okay, this person either makes more money than me or this person is more famous than me, right? But they end up putting themselves down, so either way they can't close the deal, they can't move forward, or something ends up holding them back. So how are you able to blend right in?
Yeah, I think you need to rise to the occasion and believe in yourself and say, why not me? Of course, I actually never liked school growing up, and I wanted to drop out of high school as soon as I
Okay,
could because I didn't grasp onto any subjects that really sparked an interest in me. And it wasn't until a senior year in high school when I took my first entrepreneurship class that I said, oh, well, I think I'm smart too. It's in a different kind of way, but this is really sparking my interest. So I think like you said, mindset, but confidence, believing in yourself and I belong here. And I think at Harvard and MIT, what I hear from administrators and people in the admissions office on the first day of school, they say, you belong here. Because each one of you probably has imposter syndrome and you think it was a mistake. You were the one that got in by mistake.
Yeah.
And everybody feels that way. Even if they're an astrophysicist, super smart, everyone feels not enough. I think that's a universal feeling that everybody has. So you really have to get over it. You really have to focus on your strengths and what you're great at and try to get over that insecurity that we all have.
Well, the thing is, it's I'm gonna push back just a little bit here. Is it's easier said than done, right? So
Mhm.
I'm assuming, because a lot of people, not everyone has a great upbringing, right? A lot of
Mhm.
people either have a traumatic childhood. A lot of people grew up without parents. A lot of people had to struggle. Now, overcoming the imposter syndrome is just like one end of the stick, right?
Mhm.
But there's
Mhm.
also that underlying foundation, right? So is there like because I know you have a puzzle, a step-by-step framework that you operate under. Is there a way in which, let's say I'm coming in here and just a little background on me. I was, my girlfriend was asking me and she was like, what keeps you going? Right? She's like, I wake up very early in the morning. Why do you wake up early in the morning? Why do you do this? And deep down, there was the same thing. There's this mindset that I'm not good enough. Okay. There's this part of me that's like, hey, you know what? You need to keep working harder because it doesn't matter what you've achieved. It feels like someone's gonna take it away. Right.
Mm.
There's
Mhm.
that there's that there's that feeling like, you're gonna lose, like I'm gonna lose it. So I keep working hard to keep it. Now, I think it's deep down like an inner psychology of, upbringing and stuff. But how I deal with that is through work, right? So what is your framework when your clients come in and, you see that they have the imposter syndrome or they have, a few mental roadblocks? How do you get them to overcome it?
Yeah, I don't know if it's as much about overcoming in a way that it goes away forever, but it's more about management, day-to-day management. And like you say, you're aware of that. Well, am I really getting up so early because of this trauma, because of this belief in my head that I have to work harder than everybody else because of X, Y, and Z? I think that that's part of the hero's journey that we're like, oh, wait a second, I'm a total stress ball. Not saying that you're a stress ball, but like some
And
people
I am.
who work themselves silly and they're like, whoa, I'm totally burnt out and I'm not actually feeling good and I'm not enjoying my life. And so that's what I focus on is balance. But getting back to your question about, so it's not really about helping people overcome or erase it entirely. It's really managing it, being aware of when it pops up and why, and trying to smooth it out a little bit. So wow, I'm totally stressed out. Does this really matter? And then having a line of questioning like, is this really necessary? Am I doing too much? Do I really enjoy these 10 to 20 things that I'm doing, or can I reduce them? So there's a way to go through and evaluate what you're working on and what you're doing and asking, is it really worth it? Because you want to put more of your energy into the things that matter. And getting over imposter syndrome, I would say that the number one thing is to focus on strengths. What are your strengths and your skills?
Okay.
Because you're like, well, I actually am good at that. And I suggest that everybody take this evaluation called Strengths Finder, also known as Clifton Strengths. And I took the assessment when I was working at a cross-cultural consulting firm, and my team and I took it in order to see how we would collaborate together
Okay.
and better understand each other's strengths. And it came out with these top 5 strengths that included positivity, connectedness, winning others over. And I said, wait a second, those aren't the strengths what about being good at money? What about business?
Yeah.
All these things that are like my dad and the people that I looked up to needed in order to do well in business. But this approach says these are these are inherently your strengths. And guess what? Not everybody has them. And so you can pair up and work with other people that have these other strengths, but you really need to focus on your strengths, i.e. your zone of genius, and really just embrace that and not say the glass is half empty. It's really overflowing, and be grateful for all that you do have.
Okay. So there's gratitude in there. Okay. So now Wholeu was started in 2012, right? Now, why that year? Obviously, you said you wanted that transition from, you still finding yourself in a career that fits you. But why 2012?
I've never been asked that. Why 2012? I think the year came about. Well, I attribute the first day of Wholeu to be August 1st, 2012. And the reason being is that was the day I was accepted into an accelerator, the first accelerator that I ever participated in, called Future Boston Alliance. And participating in that. And so I just sort of, I put together an application and I had an idea. It was just an idea.
Uh-huh.
And I wrote this application and started to envision and think of what it could be. And I got an acceptance letter. And that validation, sometimes validation from the outside does
Yeah.
make us feel better about ourselves rather than just being like, I have an idea and it's great. And I'm giving myself the internal validation and that's enough. So I got this external validation, and better yet, I was a part of a cohort of entrepreneurs at various stages of their businesses, and we all learned from each other, and it was an incredible experience. So that's why 2012. I was working at MIT at that point,
Yeah.
about a year at that point I was at MIT. And then the next year, 2013, my role at MIT was changing.
Okay.
And so I said, whoa, this is really, really big. And I don't do anything half-assed. I do everything
Yeah.
100%. And I feel like my role, I wouldn't be able to deliver fully in this role. So I'm going to jump ship a little early and do Wholeu whole time. So that's what I did.
Okay, now you mentioned something which is very, very important, and I think probably 85% of entrepreneurs struggle with it. Now, a lot of people mention the what do you call it? Side hustle, right? Everyone's
Mhm.
side hustle, right? Oh, they work a full-time job for 30 hours and they go do a side hustle, right? Which ends up they don't make any money on the side hustle, right? Now, how were you able to make that jump? Like, what was that because a lot of people were not able to make the jump from, oh, I'm gonna go from having this full-time guaranteed income to betting on myself. That's the biggest thing. So how were you able to, what was that? How were you able to make that jump?
Right. I did ask around,
Okay.
because you want to say like, who else has jumped? And when
Okay.
did you like take a survey, ask some people so you start to have a certain comfort level? Because it's
Okay.
not like I'm running and jumping off a cliff, but I'm doing some research and gathering from people that I actually know or friends of friends.
Okay.
And I remember one person saying, don't leave until you have like a sure thing, and you should have a job, a bridge job. And I think that it takes a bit of courage and bravery and boldness, but I think that the entrepreneurial spirit was really infused at such an early age. That class I took was in 1997. I kind of had read a lot of books and felt knowledge about it, and I think that that's actually entrepreneurs have that bravado, and sometimes that goes against them because they
Yeah.
need to be a little bit more practical.
Okay.
And so I was only a year into it, not making what I was making in terms of the salary. And then I think so I left in 2013, 14, 15, 16. It was like 3 or 4 years that it took me to surpass the salary that I was making
Okay.
at MIT. And so you have to be smart about your funds, and what what you spend. And I say this too, like people always think that you need to get like startups, they equate with venture capital or like going out and getting somebody else's money. There's a lot of ways to do that, whether it's friends and family and borrowing, which was the situation for me, or whether you go to a bank or whether you get a prize money from an accelerator,
Yeah.
or the traditional venture capital that a lot of people think of. The money has to come from somewhere. Hopefully it's coming from what you're doing as well. I should like really focus on the
Yeah.
emphasis. Do I have something valuable that people are going to pay me for? Because there's two schools of thought, like the Facebook, I'm going to give it away from free and everyone's going to love it and then I'll monetize later. But for me, right out of the gate, the origin story of like the first customer was like, okay, this is what I charge per hour. And I've just been increasing that over the years. So hopefully the money comes from your product or your service.
Gotcha. Now, okay, so you were willing to take a loss for, a few years, right? You were willing to say, okay, for 2 or 3 years, I'm going to live off of my income, right? Now, let's say there's that entrepreneur right now, right? It's, year 3. year 3.5, year 4, right? And they haven't seen that substantial increase in your income, right? And they are just about at that point to give it, right? They're going to give up and they're going to go back in and they're going to give up on their dreams and then just going to go ahead and go back to, whatever their life is. What would you say to them to keep them going? Because not everybody breaks through at the same point.
Hmm. Yeah, I would echo Winston Churchill or whoever it was who said just never, ever, ever give up. If you want to give up, I mean, you can give up, but I just think that's a sign that you're not as passionate about that particular idea. And that's okay. If you're like, whoa, that was the wrong idea. I actually only got in because I thought it was going to make money.
Yeah,
Then I would say, let it go and know when to cut your losses and say, that was a really good experience and I learned a lot.
yeah,
Or someone who's really passionate about something, and I think that I'm in this category. I'm so passionate. I believe in what I do and the impact it has on other people. Giving up is actually not an option. It's just a switch that was turned in my brain. It's not an option.
Brent.
So in terms of the money and like where it's going to come from, do I need to get another job? Do I need to babysit, walk dogs, have multiple streams of income?
Yeah,
I think that it's like magical thinking maybe to just say, okay, it's all or nothing and I need to quit and give it up and like throw the baby out with the bathwater. I did get a call from a gentleman the other day, a prospect. He said, I need you. Someone recommended you. I need to work with you. I've been running this IT business for 20 years and I'm a total slave to my clients and I can't go on like this anymore. And I said, well, you don't need to give it up. You could outsource some of the things that you're doing. You could find a way to like build that on the side because you've invested 20 years. He doesn't need to cut ties completely unless he has a really bad taste in his mouth about it. But while he's looking for a job or as he finds this new job, I believe you can balance it depending on how smart you're working and delegation and all of the rest of it. But I personally believe that you don't have to give something up entirely as long as you're smart about, other streams of income.
okay. Now, okay, so I have this question, and this is something that I struggle with a lot, especially when I'm talking to my clients, I'm talking to most of the agents I work with, is the mindset of follow your passion. Okay, and I believe following your passion, like let's say my passion is sewing and knitting, right? I'm very good at sewing, right? I'm not saying I'm good at it. I am the worst person to ever. If you're watching this, guys, don't email me about sewing and knitting because it's not gonna work out. But let's say my passion is sewing and knitting, and I want to follow my passion, right? But I know 100% that the passion is not going to take me to the financial level, right? But I also want to make a lot of money. But I know if I continue knitting, I'm not going to make a lot of money, right? And I know you coach people, especially on career change, right? What advice would you give to me, especially if I'm on the camp of follow your passion, and then also on the camp of, there's other people on the camp. I'm also going to have a follow-up question of people who are like, yeah, don't do your follow passion, follow the money,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what advice would you give to me, a sewer, knitter, or doing something that's literally, it's fulfilling to me emotionally, but it's not financially getting me there? Well, let's say my passion is video games, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's not financially getting me there. Would you give me that advice of keep continuing your passion? It's going to happen, or what necessarily would you advise me?
Yeah, I would come back to the it's not all eggs in one basket. It's all not, all or nothing,
Okay.
meaning yeah, I know personally people who sew and knit and make clothes and have really made it. There's one woman named Erin. She won Project Runway. She's maybe an outlier. Obviously, she's super, super talented and she's been doing it since she was a child. This is just her passion that she followed, and now she's making a life of it. But she also is very entrepreneurial and creative and a good businesswoman. During the pandemic, she was making masks. I bought one of them.
Okay.
There's Brandon one with like rainbows. She was like selling masks. So she's sews, she makes clothes, but she's also business minded and making a lot of money through that. I forget how much I paid for it, but I'm sure it was a premium price for this
Gotcha.
mask that I could have got at CVS for, cents. So that's on the sewing part. And I would also say, if you have a passion for it, you might not be able to make as much as you want now. And then in the meantime, you could work in the industry, so Ralph Lauren sells blankets, or, work with within the fashion industry somehow. If it's, what is it about creation? Is it crafts? Do you want to work at Michael's craft store? Just being around those tools. So I think immersing yourself in the environment will spark that passion in you, while you continue to make the money on the side. I mean, that's what I would say. And then in terms of video games, people create video games. I had a client who was interested in video games. It was his kind of full-time passion. And I knew that in Cambridge, nearby, there was different companies that are creating video games. So you can get in on the ground level. There's all different departments.
Okay.
And you're surrounded by your passion in in a corporate environment or in a startup environment. And again, my thinking is this just multiple streams of income or multiple ways of, and I think these days people understand that there's these side hustles, because we're not, unless you're the CEO and you're totally devoted to this one company, it's not rare to also have a family and friends and hobbies. So I think you can, if you're good with your time management, balance it.
Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to pivot and ask you this question before I, ask the pop question. And that is, if you can summarize success as to the number one criteria, because you described, okay, we have a lady who sews and she knits and she makes masks, and she was able to, not major, but she was able to persuade you to pay a premium price for a mask as opposed to paying 7 cents for the same mask, right? What secret ingredient would you say actually makes a successful entrepreneur? Because from what you told me, it's not just the passion. Like, I could be a good sewer knitter, but that's not what's going to take me to the next level. I could be a video gamer, but that's not what's going to take me to the next level. What is that secret sauce that actually mixes in to actually, you could tell will get you close to success?
Right. If I had the answer, I could bottle it and sell it to you.
I'll pay a premium price
The
for it.
secret sauce. I got the secret sauce. It's $50 and it cost me $1 to make. I think there's this je ne sais quoi, when I'm thinking of Erin, for example, there's just something. When I first came across her profile, there's actually, I think it was the French consul that was having a party in Boston, and they were profiling young students. I think she was at Mass Art or some local university at the time, and they were profiling different artists, and she was one of them. And her work just exuded this energy. And maybe, if you or someone else looked at this profile, you wouldn't get the same feeling. And I think there's a lid for every pot. But for me, when I looked at it, there was some energy. I loved the colors. I loved the diversity, the array of what she was working on, and it really spoke to me. So when it came time, to kind of follow her work, I met her that night and then follow her on Instagram or whatever. So I wasn't buying from her right away, but maybe it's 10 years later, I'm buying a mask from her, because there's that secret sauce, is this connection and this belief in her and her talent and wanting to support her, but also just this connection, wanting to connect with something or someone that resonates with you. So I think that's good news for everybody, because like I said before, there's a lid for every pot. So someone is going to resonate with your stuff. If you're true to yourself and your message, your calling, your purpose, your passion, whatever it is, likely someone else is also feeling that too. And they are the people who are going to invest in you, buy from you, and work from you, and support you through your career.
Okay. Now I have a question, and this is just going to be a little bit more into this Wholeu, because I want to talk a little bit more about it, because I think what you're doing at Wholeu is very phenomenal. Now, if I'm watching this podcast, right? Okay, I'm either cooking, making dishes, so I'm driving, or I'm just finished arguing with a coworker, right? What is going to prompt me to say, you know what, I'm going to go on Wholeu.com right now, right? And I'm going to go ahead and book a call and talk to Shannon, right? What is that problem that a person has that will make them pick up the phone and talk to you?
Yes, that's $1 million question. First of all, don't go to Wholeu.com, because I don't know anything. Let's just get straight. I actually did recently buy wholeucoach.com, because it was a .com, but for the first 10 years, I was just using wholeu.info.
Okay.
Just funny side story. When I was first starting, and I had this dream, and I was on this wagon, And I was like, and someone was like, okay, sure, I'll go to wholeu.com. And I said, no, it's .info. And then I heard beep, beep, like in real life, and a car outside woke me up from that dream or that nightmare, because wholeu.info might not have the same SEO cachet anyway. So that's a side joke. But when people call up, so now I don't have people calling out of the blue. I'm kind of hiding my telephone number from Yelp and all of this, so that people are not just calling me because I want to know that they are a vetted, qualified lead in advance, that they know what I'm about, that they've reviewed some materials, hopefully. I mean, that's who you really want to be talking to and spending time with. I mean, like you reached out to me, you had research, you sent me really thoughtful questions. You want someone who means business, who cares about you and wants to connect with you and is putting in the time. And so you can kind of tell who a joker is, right? So they're all like, oh, is this free? I've had people be like, is this a free service? No, are you looking for a job that doesn't pay you? So to answer your question of like, what is the pain point? I mean, some of the people who call would be like, I ask them, what did you Google? Because they'll find me on Google or something. And it's just career coach Boston or career counseling Boston. I don't know what the keywords are. Like, I need to find my life purpose, or my life is out of control, I need balance. The joke of it is, when I was starting this company, I was calling it, or practice, I should say, I was calling it an agency for change agents. And I have my own reason. That's my own reasoning. But people aren't saying, I need an agency for change agents. I'm a change agent. So you have to use the language that people are using or thinking. And life coach or career coach, for better or worse, is what is like commonly spoken when it comes to like some of the things that I help people with. So I would say the three core things that I help people with are wellness, career, and service. And the two taglines are pursuing your life's work and also living a balanced, purposeful life. That's a lot of words, a lot of statements. But I think at the end of the day, people would say, yeah, that's all great. I just need a job.
Yeah.
I just need money and stability and security. And so, for better or worse, again, I just kind of floated to the top of like being a career advisor or career coach. So I think it's the people who come initially are looking for a new job. They're in a career transition of some sort, and they need help navigating that process of finding a new job.
Got you. Okay. So okay. So now, what is because when they call you, obviously there's a few questions you ask them, right? So let's say now someone's like, all right, you know what? I think I might need a new job, or you know what? I think, I don't like where my life is going. I want to go, I think I was destined for more, right? What is that qualifying questions that you want them to go over now before they go ahead? Because you're hiding your phone number, all right? So what is that? So you're hiding your phone number. So for them to be able to reach out to you, go to wholeucoach.com, right?
Yeah.
wholeucoach.com. So you're hiding your info, right? And it's not, it's what are the qualifying questions that they have to ask themselves to say, okay, you know what? I think I am actually qualified. And you know what, Shannon, I went through everything. I asked myself these questions and I want to talk to you. I don't think it's free. I guess it is not free. It is not. If you think it's free, it's not free. So, so what are those questions?
Yeah, there's so what I have now, and I've experimented with this is sort of the back end experimentation as an entrepreneur. I was having free calls, free, for years and years and years. And actually, when I went to this conference in Texas, this next gen franchising conference, I described my process to one of my cohort, members, and I explained it to. He said, wait, you spend 30 minutes to an hour with some fool that you've never talked to, and you don't even know if they're a qualified lead. And he laughed in my face, and I went back to the hotel room and cried because I was so embarrassed. I'm like, I've just wasted so much time, and they don't convert. And so I just changed the process. And now there's a call that you can book on my website. And there's a survey that asks questions, and it's not rocket science. They're just basic questions to say, what are you working on? Check the box. This is how I can help people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which apply to you.
Okay.
And then one of the key questions, are you ready mentally, physically, financially to invest in this? Because the way that I operate, this is not, so for example, some people want help with their resume. And I'm an editor and I'm a writer, and I can help people polish up their professional brand, cover letter, resume, LinkedIn, but I'm not a ghostwriter. It's not like you give me all of this information and I'm just going to give it back to you, like package it up with a bow. I work with people. It is a co-created process, and we do the work together so that it's authentic to you. So I would say, that last question I said, are you ready to put in the work? I'm not like, hand for hire. It's not like outsourcing, like a Fiverr that you're going to hire. I mean,
Yeah.
definitely people can hire, do it for free. There's like freeresume.com, or people that like will give you, it's more of a commodity to give it to you for cheap, but working with me is just a different experience. I intend to give you a premium service. So there is a fee associated with it. But yeah, those questions are just basic. Are you willing to commit, and what do you need help with? And I think that's a really interesting, or like a key question, is understanding what you need help with, and what is your goal and what is your vision. Nobody can tell you what that is. It actually has to come from within, and people like don't know what it is. They never gave themselves permission to dream and to allow themselves to admit what they really want. So part of my job is to work with them in a co-created process, ask very simple questions, simple exercises, that vision comes to life.
Excellent question. And also another thing about the free, because we were, in my company, we were doing free a lot. And free is the most expensive word out there, right? It's going to cost somebody
Yep,
money,
amen.
right? It's either going to cost a business owner money, or people who opt in for free at some point, will shape or form, they're going to end up paying more, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we did an experiment, and we were doing lead generation for a bunch of our clients, and we would be like, hey, we'll give you the leads for free, right? So we give them the leads, to be like, we give them 20, 30 leads a month for free. And we did the math, and only about less than 2.7% of the people we gave the free leads actually called. Okay. It cost me thousands to give it for free. But after they got it for free, they're like, there was no value. And I remember one of the coaches I was listening to, he was like, well, the reason when you don't charge people, a fee, you're actually robbing them of the value.
Mm.
Right? Like today I was shopping in Target, and one of the things we were going to purchase, we were like, well, we were kind of like, which one is better? Which one is better? And then I was like, wait, that's the most expensive. So that is the best, right? And it's almost like you have to charge premium price, because people associate value in price, right? And I was talking to my sales team, and we were like, hey, I called today. I was like, hey, you know what? We gotta raise our prices. She's like, Emmanuel, we already charging a lot of money. Why do you want to raise the prices? And I was like, well, I just bought something because I was confused, and I looked at the most expensive thing, and I believed the most expensive thing was going to give me the most value. So I paid for the most expensive thing. And in some way, shape, or form, I'm saying this to the audience, for those of you who say, you want free, if you get free, are you going to value it? I mean, oxygen is free. Do you value it? No. The bed you sleep in is probably, if you sleep in your parents' house, is free. Do you value it? No. Value comes when you actually pay attention, when you actually, there's a pain involved, right? So
Mm,
now it's
mm,
almost like,
mm.
I'm talking to my staff, and I'm like, yeah, we're going to charge a lot of money. She's like, well, we're going to lose some clients. I was like, yeah, let's see first. So
Yeah, these are great points. And I would say, right, caution is like, if you're going to charge a lot, you give a lot, right? And so that's
absolutely,
the intention behind. I'm not going to charge you a lot and it's like a dud, and then I ghost and you don't hear from me. It's like, you can charge a lot if you're willing to give a lot. So that's
absolutely.
always been my philosophy, is like, I know and this comes back to one of your previous questions about stepping into that, you know, that power, that strength that you have, and charging, knowing your worth, and charging for it. And yeah, people say you should continue to raise your prices. And to that point as well, your staff saying you'll lose your clients. What I've experimented with is like, okay, I have these premium prices, but for example, for college students, there's a lot of college students in the Boston area. I have this online course that's very affordable. So I've experimented with different tiers. It's not just out the gate, it's just like this one high price. I've experimented with like different pricing and different models, like 5 weeks, like 1 hour for 5 weeks consecutively, or maybe it's just 2 sessions, or maybe it's the online course. So I think you can still keep your clients at a lower price, but then just either lower the value or raise the value over here.
Okay. Now I have a where can people like, I want to get that course right now, right? Because I know before I book an appointment with you, I have to meet all the steps, right? So I want to make sure that I engage. Where can people find the course?
I recommend that people go to wholeu.info/free workshop. So capital free, capital workshop. And this gives you an overview of this
Yeah.
5-step process of finding a job. And then if people want to learn more, then there's a sort of funnel, right, that they can like continue to learn more about the course if you wanted to proceed to that next step.
Okay. Okay. So guys, the link is going to be in the description, and then I'm also going to put it on the video here where you can be able to go ahead and get the course. So if you want to just go ahead and engage with some of Shannon's content, you can get the course. And then if you want to go ahead and book a call, you can go to wholeucoach.com and wholeu.info as well, right?
Yes.
Yes. Or wholeu.info. I got it this time. And then you can go ahead. Now, I know we're kind of segueing here now. I'm pretty sure you're paying attention to like, what's currently going on, the current trends in the society, right? And there was a lot of people that don't want to work because they were like, for instance, right? I'm not going to talk about, we all know what that event 2 years happened. I'm not going to mention it because it's a very sensitive topic. But a lot of people were used to getting handouts at that point, right? So they were used to, not working and then you'd make 5 grand a month, right? Or 6 grand a month, right? And now they're like in that point in which it's like there's that dopamine fix, right? There's that dopamine that hit of like, oh, I can get money for not doing anything. And now they're having to go do a job, and the job is saying, hey, you know what, we're gonna start you off at 2,500 a month or 15 bucks an hour or whatever it is. And they just don't want to do it. Right? They just don't want to work at all. They want the easy money, right? What mindset would you give someone to kind of get over that addiction of like getting things for free, or the addiction of being a victim mindset? Because I think being a victim is actually an addiction. You actually get a dopamine hit, actually.
Yes. Yeah. So are you referring to like unemployment or different grants that were available?
Unemployment, yeah, no, unemployment, not the grants, the unemployment.
Okay. Yeah. I would say unemployment is there for a reason. Like when people are laid off or they have, it's kind of this cushion. And I think that I might be mistaken, but that you actually pay into it with your taxes. So it's kind of like you're just getting that money back a little bit, and there's just time to like relax and like reevaluate. And that's actually a really beautiful gift.
Okay.
But yeah, I wouldn't recommend that someone is on it for, in that mentality and just like coasting and not contributing. Hopefully they would naturally be like, this is enough. Yeah, I've had enough, of this like laying back on the couch or whatever it is. If they weren't active during that time, I'm not going to make a assumption that they weren't busy and active. And because I think with unemployment, you have to fill out, a chart saying the job search activities that you do on a daily basis. So hopefully those were genuine and people are like using that time to research and say, what is the next step? So I think it's that occurrence that happened gave us all an opportunity to step back from how we were behaving and saying, is this really what I want my life to be? Yeah. And maybe the answer, I'm not going to make assumptions. Maybe the answer is no, I don't want to work like that. Now, I think this is something that I'm still grappling with as well, of like money mindset.
Okay.
I just send out a mailing based on this, the Money Coach Institute. Deborah Price started this Money Coach Institute. I found out about it. I had a call with her, and she has this beautiful survey. Very simple. You just fill out these words, how you feel about money. And there's these different types. So you could be the fool or the innocent or the martyr, which is, or you could be a magician, or you could be a warrior. And that's so much more appealing, right? Are you a money magician and a money warrior, handling your money well? Or are you just like sloppy victim over here? How do you change that mindset? I don't think it's like this. I mean, it actually could happen like this. I think
Yeah.
some people say enlightenment is just, again, a switch in your mind. I'm like, whoa, I get it. I'm here. I'm enlightened. And so it could be as quick as that, like whatever event or conversation or insight or book you read just like shakes you into awareness.
Yeah.
But what would I how would I help someone who, I mean, first of all, I don't think that those people are going to be coming to me looking for
True.
advice. So I
True.
haven't really dealt with someone who's like, yeah, I just want to like get free cash and do nothing. That's not the person that I usually interact with. Now, if someone says I want to work less, then maybe they adapt their lifestyle accordingly. And if they live in a very lavish, they live beyond their means, it's just like decreasing the stuff that they buy, and therefore make adjustments accordingly. But yeah, for the most part, I'm not coming across people who are saying, tell me more. Are you coming across people say, yeah, I just want to live off the government?
Well, the thing is, it's not necessarily, no one is ever going to admit that they have a fault, right? People never do, right? I'm a big believer in reading into the subconscious because, there's most of communication is 55% of the body language, right? So the way people talk about things, right? Like, for instance, a lot of people complain about their jobs, right? Not making enough money, or they complain about their bosses, and they reminisce back to the times in which they could just sit at home and actually do nothing. So it's not necessarily they're saying they want to live off the government. It's just necessarily the point that, like, for instance, an addict, right? That is I'm not saying that, if you're living off the government, you're an addict, okay? But for instance, an addict is, they know that there is an element of a problem, okay? But for the most part, if they're not really, like, out there just sniffing powder left and right, they don't see it as a problem. They just see it as they're going about life, right? The majority
Right.
of people never really believe that they have a problem until everything comes crumbling down, right? There's
Yes.
that
Right.
epiphany never hits, right? So someone might be watching this right now and is living off the government, but they don't see anything wrong with it, right? They just see it as,
Mm.
I'm going through life, it's comfortable, right? They like, and as human beings, we like comfort. So what I've encountered in my dealings and interacting with people is they never see that there is a problem. And I personally, I'm someone that I never believe. I always tell people there was a point in my life in which, it was not too long ago, I was making $300 a month, and I was sleeping in between a car and a friend's place, right? And I remember my first car. I bought my first car by borrowing the down payment from 8 people. Okay, I think it was a $400 down payment, but I bought it from 8 people, so I don't even owe one person
Well,
to be able to
yeah.
make that one payment. But there was always that option where I could go, go get the food stamps, go get the government money. But I said, the moment that I do, I know that whenever something hits the fan, I can always go back, right?
Mm.
So my
Yeah.
back is not against the wall anymore, right?
Yes.
Now I have a safety net. So I was like, I don't want a safety net, so I never took it. And there were times in which I remember it was funny. I was talking to my pastor at the time, and she was like, and I told her, I said, I can't do this anymore. I was like, I legitimately cannot. I can't. Like, I'm barely able to. I can't. I was eating. I remember this was so funny. I remember McDonald's, they had the McChicken at the dollar menu, and it was 8 cents for sales taxes, and it was a dollar for the stuff. So I'd always go there with $1.08. Okay, so it was $1.08, and that was dinner. Okay, breakfast was, I would go to, I think it was $3.45 for a pack of ramen noodles, and I would get boiled eggs. So I'll do ramen noodles and boiled eggs for breakfast, right? And I would stretch a $3 and 40 something pack for 2 weeks. So I was living off of, like, I was stretching for 2 weeks. When I'm 6'3", and I was weighing 132 pounds. Okay, so let's just say I was so skinny I could literally fit through any door. Okay, but
Yeah.
I could always, there was always that I could just go back, but I was like, I never could, because I actually had that vision. So for me, when so I can tell when people are like drawn to that, give me more, right? Money for nothing, right? And I
Yeah.
was, so for me, I know what it feels like, but they don't really see that as a problem. Now, I want to segue into something because you mentioned wellness and service, right?
Hmm.
Now, this is a very interesting topic because a lot of people I talk to, and I would say about 85% of people that I know that they get married now are getting married from Bumble. I know we're kind of segueing, right? From Bumble. And
Yeah.
this is a hot
Meeting on
topic, and
Bumble.
this is the reason why I want to talk about this is they're getting it from Bumble, right? And it's because most people don't necessarily feel that innate connection, right? They don't feel that time. There's no time, or there's something going on, right? And I believe a big part of success is having somebody by you. Would you agree?
Um,
Let's have
A
that
big
dialogue.
part of
Yes.
a
Okay.
big part of success is having a partner.
It not in some way, yes. In some way, yes, because if you can, it eliminates the 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 need to be searching for something.
Eliminates the need to be searching. Yeah, I would say this is a tricky subject because most people feel, and if you have a good partnership, so the, so many things to say about this, and this is a big pivot into relationships, and it's a big
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
I actually have a
This is an
client.
interesting topic. That's why I just brought. It's just that, yeah.
Yeah, I have a client tomorrow who would like to just talk about relationships and how to meet a new person, and um, I want to know, where is that coming from? Is it coming from a desperation? Is it coming from a lack? Is it coming from I'm not good enough? Is it coming from a trauma response, or is it coming from the other place we talked about, which is I am so awesome. I could date myself, but I'm going to share it with somebody else, and
Yeah.
they're also awesome. Two whole people coming together and not needing each other necessarily. So it's just my philosophy. If you have quote unquote the right person, it kind of feels like that. It's not filling a need or a hole that you
Mhm.
have in your life or your heart. So certainly, I think the research would show being in partnership with someone who's equally supportive is a great thing. And yes, if you have this kind of desperate searching and you're wasting time trying to find a partner, I mean, I think that the right one or the right circumstances, if you believe, and it sounds like you're a man of faith, if you believe in God or if you believe in some force, a
Yeah.
positive force that's driving your life, that you believe that you don't desperately need to search to find, it will come to you in the right divine timing.
Got you. Okay, because the main key point I was segueing into that was not even necessarily of like it was more of in the sense as to how would I singular focus, right? It was just more up to the point of singular focus as to, you're not, oh, you know what, there's there's this person here, there's this person here, and then you have your business, right? Because majority of of the people you work with are either trying to make a career change or they have a business, right? And there is always something, and I found this, which is very interesting, is I've interacted with a lot of people who, who by society definition, they make a lot of money. And there is always that, how would I call it? There's either, you meet the person, it's like, yes, they're married, but they're not happily married. So then they're, going out there and then they're like distracted, right? And then
Mhm.
pay attention to their business down the line, it tanks, right? And then you have the one person that's like, was single, right, doing great in business, and then they find that partner, and then they lose focus of in their business, and then they go 100% of the partner, and then they lose the business, and then they lose the partner,
Mm.
right? And then you have all of this segues as to, because I believe a huge part of wellness is understanding priorities, right? Having priorities, but
Mhm.
understanding what per se is to a singular focus, right? Is to avoid stress, right? Because the reason why I brought this up as well is life coach, a lot of life coaching is pretty much segmented around like, talk about the puzzle pieces, right? And I don't want to yap here. My mind is still bringing in the train of thoughts in there. So I'm gonna just go ahead and transition into this. Can you just talk a little bit more about the puzzle pieces while I formulate my thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to say. I think we could, unless you want to come back to it, leave the relationship or the person. I mean,
If you have more,
it
please
comes back to
expand. If you have
time
more.
time management and time balance and being with the right people. I think I saw, and I don't know if the quote was actually by Morgan Freeman, but there was this meme on Instagram that was like, I found the key to success in life, and that's avoiding idiots. Or just like avoiding idiotic people, like
Yeah,
not being with bad people. I think that the key to success, one of the keys to success is being around great people, people that make you a better person, that make you want to be a better person and give back. So wellness, there's so many components, and this is another offering that I have, the Wholeu holistic. So there's actually an assessment on my website, a free assessment, because again,
okay.
it kind of gets you into this, knowing more about these offerings and more about me. But if you go to the website, one of the first free assessments is looking at this circle of life, the different puzzle pieces. You might have heard of this assessment, the wheel of life, but
Okay.
it's going to ask you 10 questions, and you rank yourself from on a Likert scale of 1 to 10. How good do I feel about self-love, about my belief in myself, my respect for myself, my mindfulness, the way I take care of my body, my nutrition, my home environment, my image, professional brand, my career, my relationships or my network, and then my service to society. Those are 10 components or puzzle pieces that I put together in this Wholeu holistic development. So if I'm working with a client, that's a starting point, a conversation to look at those 10 pieces, and it could go deeper into different places, depending on what someone's doing in their life. But to me, that's a holistic snapshot of some of the important pieces of our lives.
Interesting. Okay. I want to kind of that's a very interesting I guess piece, basically having the pieces of the puzzle. Now, I kind of want to just segue into, as we wrap up here, and then we're going to go into the last segment, which is pretty much me asking you my infamous dumb questions. I'm pretty sure you saw those ones. I have a list of dumb questions that I ask.
Yes, I know that you call them dumb questions, but why not call them fun questions? Nothing's dumb, right? They say there's no dumb questions if it's really coming from a true place that you really want to know. So I'm ready for your fun questions.
Yeah, we'll get to the fun questions, but the reason why I call them the dumb questions is because um, the weirdest thing is it's like I want the viewer and the audience to just have this mindset of just, I mean, because the big thing for me is, and this is where I'm going to talk about the next question. The question I wanted to ask you is this: is so one of the things I struggled with initially was rejection, overcoming rejection, dealing with rejection, right? And I would never post content because I was afraid people would judge me, right? I would because growing up, and this might catch this is gonna catch a lot of my audience very, very I think it's the first time I ever said this was I had cystic acne, right? When I mean it was so bad. It was so bad. I used to be the most social kid in school, and then all of a sudden God decided to just like, hey man, I'm gonna humble you here. And when I had that, it completely destroyed myself. And when I mean destroyed, it was bottoms up. And I'm
Mm.
grateful for that. But the one thing I did struggle with was rejection. And one of the mind frames that I always use before I do anything is like I always say, like before, like let's say I'm gonna make a post, right, and it's gonna be controversial, or someone's gonna not like it. I always go, well, they're not gonna like it, so what, right? Or and also as I started to get older, with that when I was dealing with acne, I'd be like, I have acne in my face, they're gonna stare at me, so what? Right? So I always kind of like I owned it, so this way it never had any power over me, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
growing up, my sister used to say, "Oh, you're stupid, you're dumb," right? Which is I'm not saying that I'm stupid and dumb, but I just kind of want to segment to this. But now, because now we paid for her nursing school. She's a nurse now. She's doing all this stuff. She's like, "No, you are the best brother ever," right? But
I
she's
heard you
starting out is back
singing
in
a
school. She
different
was
tune these days. Nice.
totally different tune. She was like, "Ah, you
Yeah.
stupid," all that stuff. But I I I realized like just for me was dealing with rejection, especially, is A, they're not gonna like it. So what? I know I'm living true to myself, right? So that's
Hmm.
why I want to kind of ask you this question is to what is your philosophy? Because that's my philosophy on it, is what is your philosophy on handling rejection and disappointment in your journey as an entrepreneur so far?
Hmm. I'll start off by saying I'm a fellow survivor of cystic acne, and I
Okay,
know,
hey.
oh yeah, deep down, years and years trying to find the cure. It was just all over engulfing. It was like
I can imagine it.
tearing apart my face, like eating me alive, eating my face alive. So I just remember that feeling of like, don't look at me. I'm different. I'm ugly. I don't want to be looked at. It's really, yeah, traumatic. And you have to overcome that. That insecurity that comes with acne or any kind of deformation or but it's interesting that you look back and say it was a gift to humble you, and
Hmm.
I didn't know that I needed humbling, but maybe I did. I mean, I was pretty
Yeah.
like insecure when I was little, so it was just sort of like the cherry on the cake, but maybe it was like kind of the pinnacle, and it got better from there. But in terms of dealing with rejection, in a way, you need to, they say start with why. Why are you doing it? Why are you sharing it? A large part, it's for yourself.
Okay.
It's not really for anybody else to judge you or score you or tell you your value. It's coming from, let's say, a higher source.
Okay.
It's coming, if it is indeed coming from a higher source or a positive source, then why would you ever need to defend it? If it's coming from the right place, there's just no question about it. If someone doesn't like it, okay, sorry, you can like unsubscribe, you can not follow.
Yeah.
You're just not concerned. You have like this tunnel vision and kind of blinders on to any haters. It's not about impressing other people. Now, another way to think of it, like rather than think of like, oh no, who's not going to like it? And you had said this earlier, like what I want my audience to think of that one person or many people, your audience, your ideal customer, your ideal client, your ideal viewer. This is for them. I'm sharing something that I think that they're going to have value, get value from. So I think it's a matter of changing. The rejection is going to come because people are empty and they want to criticize and whatnot. So you can't control that. But what you can control is your intention. And then hopefully it has some positive impact on other people, and just to try to visualize them and imagine their face and their smiling face, and then share things with a smile and with that intention.
Okay, good. Now let's dive in a little bit to the fun questions here. Okay, so the fun questions we have, did you ever consider becoming a professional puzzle solver, since you mentioned the puzzle pieces coming together?
Yeah, I like puzzles, and seeing things come together that I didn't know there was such thing as a professional puzzle solver. Maybe you mean like a Rubik's Cube solver.
Yeah, like the
Um,
Rubik's. Yeah.
yeah, no, certainly not. I don't seek out problems because I actually believe, because a puzzle is kind of like a problem or frustration. But I personally believe, and I'm sure you agree, is that there's enough problems and enough challenges just for day to day, right? Like
Yeah.
you call Verizon and there's like
Okay.
20 hoops that they're going to make you jump through. If you want to live in modern society, and that's my choice right now, is modern society in a city, just doing the day to day, you're going to have puzzles and all kinds of things to work out. So I don't seek that out as a job now.
Okay. That's the first question then. And then second question, as a life coach, do you think you could coach a cat to be more social?
Coach a cat. Well, I've never had a pet, so I don't claim to be an expert with dealing with animals. But
Yeah.
my understanding of cats is that they just keep to themselves, and that's their nature. And so I wouldn't try to change somebody's nature. Like I said before, someone has got to have a desire or a drive to change.
Okay.
And so the cat is the cat. If you want to be antisocial, that's fine, But if the cat has a moment and they say, hey, I want to change, I'm happy to work with them. But I'm not trying to change people's natural way of being.
Love it. I love it. Well, any as we end here, any last words for the audience, any last words for viewers, anything you want to promote or tell them to go to?
Yeah, I want to get a better understanding of your audience. Tell me like one person who you think might be watching and what you think they need to
My
know in
audience
their
is
life right now.
mostly, we have entrepreneurs, right? So just give you a little foundation for people who've been following me for a few months now, a few years. This channel started off as I'll just make like little tutorials teaching people about sales, right? Because sales, I believe, is very, very, very intriguing, very, very important. Like for instance, the lady that sews and knit, if she doesn't know how to sell, then no one's going to know about her product, right?
Mhm.
Started off as sales, and then we transitioned into I was doing more software tutorials, right, of how to people, entrepreneurs who had different software companies, as far as like how to do a little design here and there, how to tweak this, how to set up the automations. And then I realized, I was like, well, success is 90% knowledge and 10% skill. There's a lot of coders out there, there's a lot of builders out there, but 90% of them don't have the mindset, right? So then I decided to say, you know what? I'm going to bring on guests on the podcast, right? And I'm going to go ahead and do something where they still get the 10% of the, still make the tutorials, but they still get that ability to work on that holistic view. That's the whole point, is I wanted to give them the holistic view, right? So that 90%, which is what we're talking about, is that mindset to keep them going. Because for me, what kept me going was podcasts. I always listen to podcasts. 100% always listen to podcasts. And I was like, well, that actually is probably one of the secrets to my success because I've never missed a single day of workout. And for the past 3 years, every day, every morning, doesn't matter if I had to wake up at midnight, I always work out, right? But it was always because I watched this video and one of the guys was like, well, you're in constant competition. And if your competition is always working, why are you being lazy? Why are you sleeping in? So I was like, okay, fine. You know what? I'm in constant competition, so I have to keep working. So there's that mindset, and I don't think people ever get to see that. So that's the reason why this part of the podcast exists. But yeah, so my audience is basically mostly entrepreneurs. That's the reason why most of the questions are tailored to as entrepreneurs, as opposed to just the overview of the general day-to-day person.
Great. Yeah. To answer your question, if I had any last advice, maybe we could add a link to this below in the show notes, but I did write a summary of my 10-year entrepreneurial journey
Okay.
and 5 of the takeaways that I have from my entrepreneurial journey that I think are universal enough that they could apply to work and life. It was an article on LinkedIn, so maybe we can put that below. But generally, just thinking big, having a vision and believing in yourself. I know that's so cliche and trite
Yeah.
these days, but I think the article goes into a little bit more, like surrounding yourself with successful people, believing in the process and the evolution, never giving up, and some other things that they might find some value on. It's on my website as well, but maybe
Yeah.
below it.
There'll be a link in the description for the course. There'll be a link in the description for the to go to wholeu.info or wholeucoach.com. And then there's also going to be a link to the summary down there. And there's also going to be a link to LinkedIn if someone wants to go ahead and connect with you. Guys, there's no LinkedIn to her phone number because it is so that is not going to be there. So
But
give
if
a
you want
follow.
to book a call, it's on the website. You just
Yes,
answer a couple questions and qualify and let us know that you really mean it.
absolutely. Well, it was an absolute pleasure having you on, Shannon. Absolutely.
Yeah. Nice to
And
meet you. Nice to speak with you.
absolutely.